Ms. Messalone, when you're ready.
Thank you, Judge. The defense is going to call Stacy Pritchett.
Ma'am, just watch your step. If there's a step up to the witness box, if you don't mind, please. Thank you. If you don't mind, before you sit down, could you put your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
All right, once you're comfortable and seated, can you state your full name for the record and spell your last name, please?
Sure. My name is Stacy Pritchett. It's Pritchett.
Ma'am, and I'm just going to ask you to speak up so jurors number 15 and 16 can hear you, okay?
Of course, yes.
All right, thank you so much. Ms. Messalone, when you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Pritchett.
Good morning.
Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hi, my name is Stacy Pritchett. Should I spell it again?
No, you're good.
What's your current occupation?
I work in marketing.
And what's your educational background?
I have a BA in literature from SUNY Binghamton and an MBA in marketing from Brew College.
And are you married to Jim Pritchett, who we just heard from?
Yes, I am.
So obviously we just heard from your husband, so we already have some background. But can you just explain a little bit to the jury about how you met Susan and then Paul?
Absolutely. I met Susan when I was a sophomore in high school, so about 43 years ago. We went to high school together, we had a lot of classes, and we just became friends. We did a project together, and we just really hit it off. We were very close in high school. I went away to college, and I would write letters, and we kept in touch. And then after college, when I moved back home, we rekindled our friendship, and I would consider her my best friend, more like a sister, and Paul more like my brother-in-law. I've known him about 42 years, and I consider them like family. I consider Katie and Marissa like my nieces, and my kids introduce them as their cousins.
Okay, so just to back up for a moment, you mentioned you met Susan in high school,
I did,
right?
yes.
And you were around how old at that time?
I was about 15 years old when I met Sue.
And what about when you met Paul? How old were you then?
16 or 17, in that range. So about a year after I met Sue, I had met Paul.
So
They
still
had
in
started
high school?
dating, still in high school, yes.
And again, we heard from your husband, but can you just explain a little bit more about your relationship with the Caneiro family? I know you just explained that you consider them like family, but how did your relationship develop over the years with the families as far as like things you did together and events and activities and things of that nature?
We became like family. Sue, like I said, is more like my sister than my best friend, and Paul, my brother-in-law, the girls like my nieces. We went on family vacations. We went to Disney World. We went to Hershey Park like once a summer. We spent every Christmas Eve together. And during the summer, we were there like every other weekend. I used to joke that it was my shore house. But we spent a lot of time together as families.
And during the summer, we've heard a lot about these barbecues. Can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that?
So we would go, once they put in their pool, we were there regularly. We would go every other weekend. Paul is a fabulous cook. He would barbecue. He'd make the best steak that is still talked about in my house. And he would cook, and the kids would swim. We would all swim. They'd play on the trampoline. They'd play with each other. And we'd just hang out. We spent a lot of time with them in the summer.
So based on how well you knew Paul, how would you describe him?
I would say that Paul is highly intelligent. loyal, very helpful, dependable, very logical, and very even-tempered.
And did you say he was?
He's very helpful. He was always helpful to me personally, to us as a family. He was always there if I needed advice. He helped us with when personal computers became a thing. It was Paul who set us up. He set up my computer. He set up my mother's computer. Whenever I had an IT question or a technical question, I would ask Paul. He really was my go-to person for anything technical. He advised me on what tires to buy. And then when Jim and I moved to New Jersey and we bought our house, things were broken and he came over with his drill. He fixed our cabinet. He fixed other things around the house. One time when my husband was traveling and my kids were very, very little, our boiler broke. And I called Sue and I spoke to Paul and he told me what to do. I called a repair person and then he stayed on the line with me the entire time that the repair person was there. So he was always very, very helpful.
And as a result of how well you knew Susan and Paul and their family and how often you saw them, I think you said like every other weekend.
Yes.
A lot during the summer. Did you have the occasion to see Keith and Jennifer and their family?
Yes. We saw them every Christmas Eve because they would come every Christmas Eve and we'd all exchange gifts and we'd see them a lot during the summer. So they wanted to swim in the pool and eat Paul's cooking and play and hang out. So we spent a lot of time with Keith and Jen and the kids every summer, a lot of time.
And so based on what you were able to observe with the interactions with the family, can you tell us about Paul's relationship with Keith?
Yes. So in the 40 or so years approximate 40 years that I knew Keith and Paul, I observed them often, and they had a very loving relationship. Paul loved Keith very much. He would call him his person, his best friend. He was always there for Keith. He was they were best friends and business partners, and he was very protective of Keith, and he loved him very, very much.
And did you ever have the opportunity to see them disagree or argue?
Yes, I mean, they were brothers, so of course they disagreed. Yes, they would disagree. They would discuss things, get their feelings out there. I actually admired their relationship because they could disagree and then go back to being best friends, going to lunch. So they would disagree. Usually it was Keith who would lose his temper. Paul was always the more even one, the fixer, keeping calm. And they would disagree and then they would resolve it and move on and go out to lunch and just resume the relationship like nothing ever happened.
And what about Paul's relationship with Jesse and Sophia? What can you tell us about that?
I can tell you that he loved them very, very much. I would say that Jesse was the son he didn't have. He loved Jesse, he loved Sophia. He absolutely adored those kids. I know when Jesse was in preschool or kindergarten, he was allowed to bring an adult to school with him, and he chose his Uncle Paul. I mean, that was how much Jesse loved Paul, and it was absolutely reciprocated. He absolutely loved Jesse. He absolutely loved Sophia. He loved those kids.
Focusing on the businesses for a moment. To your knowledge, again, just based on your experience knowing them and what your personal observations were, and getting to know Paul, getting to know Keith over the 40-something years, were you privy to when the businesses started and as they progressed and things of that nature?
I was privy to some of it, absolutely. I know Keith started the business and then he brought Paul on, and Paul was the one who really grew the business. He went out and he got clients. He was very instrumental in building the business. I know they worked very well together. They were very compatible. I think Keith was more strategic and Paul was more like tactical, more hands-on. He was always there building the business, and they worked very, very well together.
Now, obviously, again, a lot of time has passed since November of 2018. Are you still close with the Caneiro family?
Absolutely. They are our family, and they always will be.
Thank you.
Cross?
Thank you. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
You said Keith would always lose his temper.
Not always. He was the first one to usually get agitated and start yelling.
Okay. Paul was very level-headed, right?
Yes.
Now, I assume you'll agree with me that you didn't hear Keith lose his temper on a phone call with Paul on November 19th, 2018.
No, I did not.
Never heard that, correct?
No, I did not.
You also said that Keith started the business, right?
Correct.
And you said that Paul then had a lot to do with growing the business, right?
Yes.
And I'm sure that's fair. But were you aware of the ownership structure of, when I say the business, let's say Square One, did you know who owned what?
I had an idea.
And what was the idea?
I think, mostly Keith's, and Paul was part of it as well. But the majority was Keith's.
I have nothing further, Judge.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
You can step down, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Defense can call our next witness.
Judge, that's all we have for today.
Okay. All right.